Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inside the Birds NFL Wild Card Round Preview. That's right, the regular season is over. The seeds have been established, and from here on out, it is going to be fewer and fewer NFL football games. And you got two teams that have rest this week because they're the number one seeds. That's the Broncos in the AFC, and of course, the Seahawks in the NFC. Well deserved for both teams. And then everybody else will be playing. There's going to be games Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So this will be the last weekend of Monday Night Football until next year. So if you're a big fan of Monday Night Football, and some people still are, it's not. I think it's lost its luster compared to Sunday Night Football over the years, but still a fun game. If you're a big fan of Monday Night Football and a traditionalist, it's going to be a long time after Monday night's game, which is always the 4-5 seed. It's going to be, excuse me, the Steelers hosting the Texans. Should be an exciting game. We'll get into it. But yeah, that'll be the last one until the 2026 season begins. Before we get into the games, I do want to just go around the league a little bit and discuss the head coaching landscape, GM landscape. As last show, I discussed the fact that I thought that there could be as many as 9 or 10 head coaching openings, but I didn't feel like it would get to that point. I did not expect some things that happened that have happened. There were some guys who you thought would be on the bubble but safe, like a Raheem Morris, for example, who won 4 straight games, I think, to end the year, and he gets fired about less than a cup of coffee after the season finale for the Falcons, who win. They beat the Saints, and they help the Panthers get into the playoffs. And what do they get? Well, Raheem Morris gets fired for it. So as of this recording, and to be honest with you, the way things work in the NFL, by the time you listen to this, there could be a hiring, there could be another firing. But as of this recording, there are 8 openings. All right. You got the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Giants, Titans, Falcons, Cardinals, Browns, and Raiders. So there's going to be a lot of movement. It's going to be a lot of change. It's going to be an interesting class of candidates you're going to see being interviewed. I think what you will overwhelmingly see is defensive play caller types. Not because that's the trend. I just think it was a very good year for defense in the NFL. Better year for defense than offense. Just look at the 2 number 1 seeds. They are defensive teams more than they are offensive teams. And it just so happens that this round of candidates, in my mind, is going to produce more defensive names than there will be offensive names. So guys like, say, Jesse Minter from the Chargers, who's done an unbelievable job. I'm sure he's going to get interviews. Anthony Campanile, the defensive coordinator for the Jaguars. I'm sure you're going to hear his name. You may see Antonio Pierce, a couple of guys, defensive guys who've already been head coaches. Pierce, Gerard Mayo. I don't know. They'll probably get a tire kick if teams are still interested. Vance Joseph, of course, who's done such an amazing job with the Broncos defense. Brian Flores. You're just going to see a ton of defensive names being interviewed. But obviously, the 2 biggest names are going to be John Harbaugh, because he's John Harbaugh. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been a very successful coach, one of the most successful coaches in the NFL for almost 2 decades. And then Kevin Stefanski, surely because he's been a 2-time coach of the year, even though he has not won a lot of games the last 2 years. I think most people look at the Browns and they don't always hold that against the coach because they know the Browns have not been a great organization. And the fact that Stefanski was a 2-time coach of the year for that organization puts a feather in his cap. So those 2 guys will be coveted. The John Harbaugh situation is interesting to me. Who knows why Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti decided to fire John Harbaugh, other than we know it's been a disappointing year for the Ravens. They've had a ton of injuries. They had high expectations going into the year, bringing almost everybody back on defense. It should have been a very good defense. They were not. They had a lot of injuries. They lost their best pass rusher, Matabuki. They had injuries in the secondary. It did seem like there was very few games where the Ravens secondary and defense was all together. But also, they did not have great pass rushers after losing Matabuki. They did not have great edge rushers, and that hurt them. Regardless, they had a chance to win in their last game and beat the Steelers. I thought they would. They didn't. They had a chance. Tyler Loop, obviously the rookie kicker, misses the field goal. It's hard to believe, although it's probably true, that John Harbaugh, the difference between Harbaugh being unemployed today and employed was the rookie kicker missing the kick. And if you go back and look at how the Ravens have lost in playoff games over the last few years, it's not a coaching. You didn't come away and say, man, that was a poorly coached team. I mean, last year, Mark Andrews drops a 2-point conversion. Lamar has a fumble. Andrews dropped another pass in that game. I mean, they had an opportunity last year to win, and they didn't. They just didn't get it done. And that was kind of strange. It wasn't coaching that you felt that they lost to the Bills. All right. In 2023, I think they wound up losing to in the conference championship game. They wound up losing to the Chiefs 17-10. And there was a play here, a play there, a drop. I mean, it was a call, a call that meant the difference. So I understand that they haven't gotten over this hump. But I don't think Steve Bisciotti fired John Harbaugh because he doesn't think he's a good coach anymore. Sometimes after 18 years, things run their course. I know it's out there that maybe the relationship between Lamar and John Harbaugh might not be the same, or that they wanted Todd Monken out. That would be hard for me to believe, because ever since Todd Monken became, and I'm not trying to slam anybody's reporting, by the way, I'm just giving you my own personal take. Why would you want Todd Monken fired even after a year where the offense had issues and Lamar was injured? Sure, right? And I know that they had some wonky things going on with Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter of the Week 17 game. I get that there were some things that went on with the Ravens that were not understandable all the time. But with Todd Monken, Lamar Jackson won 2 MVPs. I mean, he became one of the best, forget running, he became one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league. He's right up there. You can make the argument that he is. So I just don't think that anything other than owners get impatient. They want change if they think it's time. And sometimes it's the right call for both the owner and for the coach. And this might be a situation. The Ravens are a great organization. There's no doubt in my mind that they will hire the next head coach and give that guy a really good roster. And it wouldn't surprise me if they went with a guy just like with Harbaugh, if they went with somebody who's not the most obvious candidate, but someone they identify as the best leader. All right. The Ravens will be fine. And I think John Harbaugh will be fine wherever he goes, as long as he gets what he wants, which I think he deserves and will. And when I say gets what he wants, I'll expand on that. But usually a head coach who's available like that, who has the credentials that John Harbaugh has, will obviously get to pick all of his coaches. Not everybody gets to do that. Most do, not everybody. But also might have a say if he goes somewhere where who the GM might be. And it's not always the best way of doing business. But if you need to get a guy like John Harbaugh, who's still in his 60s, he's still got plenty of years left to coach. If you need to get that guy, and it means you have to move on from someone you already have, or you give that guy a little bit more power, you do it because John Harbaugh is that good of a coach. But sometimes things just run the course. And it's somewhat ironic, that Harbaugh comes from the Andy Reid tree. And it definitely reminds me of how it ended for Andy Reid with the Eagles. Andy Reid was not a bad coach when he got fired. He had some bad years with some really bad injuries. There's probably some similarities in how it went for the Ravens this year and how it did at the end of Andy Reid's tenure with the Eagles. But the move was made because it had run its course. In Andy's situation, they had started to really feel the pressure of not winning a Super Bowl and had started to do some things that were very uncharacteristic as an organization. The hardest thing to do for head coaches in the NFL is to find good assistant coaches. It's the hardest thing to do. It's especially hard for coaches who become first-year head coaches and have to put a staff together. You hear this all the time. I've heard this 1,000 times that guys will go interview for jobs, for head coaching jobs, and they'll have a list. This guy is going to be my offensive coordinator. This guy's going to be my defensive coordinator. This guy is going to be so-and-so, my O-line coach. And an owner who's dialed in or a GM who's dialed in will look at that list and be like, you're not getting those guys. Good try, but you're not getting those guys. They're not coming here. They're either locked into contracts or it's just not going to happen. And so it's tough. I feel for head coaching candidates. I mean, a lot of times you'll see a first-year head coach go through his first year with a team and then fire guys immediately. In fact, Raheem Morris is an example, right? He fired his defensive coordinator last year after his first year in Atlanta. I believe Mike McDonald in Seattle is a good example. He fired his offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, who he had brought in from the University of Washington. And then he hired Clint Kubiak, who did an excellent job. But you just don't have all the guys at your disposal that you want. So it's very, very difficult to get the guys that you need. For Andy, at the end of his tenure with the Eagles, they had started to make moves, and it's not all on Andy. The front office played a role in this too. They had started to bring in guys who were not Andy Reid type of coaches. And remember, Andy Reid type of coaches were, guys who were just committed to the great play connectivity with players, demanding but fair. You're talking about Spagnuolo, Rob Rivera, Sean McDermott. And so Andy Reid had to fire Sean McDermott. Here's how it worked, right? Sean McDermott was the defensive coordinator. Jim Johnson, unfortunately, had passed away after the 2008 season. Sean McDermott becomes the defensive coordinator. McDermott, really good defensive mind. He's shown that in Buffalo. But at the time, and he's still like this. I talk to Sean. I catch up with him in the combine. I'm not trying to knock him. I like him a lot. He's a very intense man, very demanding, very intense. And at the time he became Eagles defensive coordinator, he's in Jim Johnson's shadow. And that was very difficult. He was basically supposed to replace a legend, right? And he's not Jim Johnson. He's Sean McDermott. And it was clear after, I guess that year of defensive coordinator that Andy felt that Sean was feeling the weight of it too much. And maybe that was impacting how intense it was to be around. So he fired Sean, but in an Andy Reid way, he got Sean a job with Rivera down in Carolina, and it wound up being the best thing for Sean McDermott. He was a defensive coordinator for a really good team that the Panthers had with Rivera. And then he became the head coach of the Bills. But then what happened is for the Eagles and Andy is you just start hiring coaches that just aren't really your kind of guys. And so what happens is we know Jim Washburn, there was pressure for him to get that pass rush going. So he hires Jim Washburn, the godfather of the wide nine defense. And they hire him before they hire a defensive coordinator, right? And so I know this for a fact. Andy had good defensive coordinators whose names you would recognize in the building interviewing for the job saying, I don't know, I run this kind of defense, but Jim Washburn runs this kind of defensive front. It's not going to work. It's not what we do. And so you can imagine Andy Reid all of a sudden is realizing he doesn't have great options. And Juan Castillo, he didn't want to make Juan Castillo his defensive coordinator. Juan had been begging him for years to do it, but he didn't want to, but he got into a case where he had to. And so this is what I mean by things run its course. You start making decisions that aren't really in the best interest of what you do, who you are, your identity, because of the need to win a Super Bowl. Now, John Harbaugh won a Super Bowl. And to me, that earned him. That's why he was there for 18 years. He won a Super Bowl early in his career in 2012. We all remember. And then as the decline of Flacco kind of settled in, or the regression of the roster, they went 5-11 in 2015, went 8-8 in 2016. So they went through this rough patch where they just weren't the Ravens that you knew. But John was just a couple of years removed from winning a Super Bowl, and in 2014 they lost in the divisional round. So they go through a rough patch, but John Harbaugh has earned the right to stay, and Bisciotti stuck with him. They were building up. They draft Lamar Jackson. They build him up, and things are good again. That's why he didn't get fired when the first rough patch. But now you're in 2025. You've been to the playoffs 3 straight years. You've come up short 3 straight years, and you're in Lamar Jackson's prime. And the owner just felt that maybe they've wasted a couple of years of Lamar Jackson's prime, and it had just run its course. The Ravens will be fine. I'm positive of it. John Harbaugh will be fine. I'm positive of it. I don't know if it needed to happen, but it did happen. And I think, much like with Andy and the Eagles, I think both entities will be all right and will survive it. And they will probably look back on it. And maybe I'm sure right now there might be a little bitterness on Harbaugh's side. I get it. I think there was on Andy's side a little bit. But Harbaugh can take a deep breath, evaluate his options. He'll have plenty. We'll get to that in a second. And decide on who, he's been around a lot of good coaches while he's with the Ravens and a lot of good personnel people while he was with the Ravens. And wherever he goes, as long as he's given some power and the ability to choose his coaches and maybe have some influence on the front office, I think he'll be in a good spot. Now, the Miami Dolphins and their owner, Stephen Ross, can say all they want about how they were waffling on Mike McDaniel. They wanted to keep him. They loved him, but they weren't sure. They told him in the first meeting that, yes, you're our quarterback. He went out and told the press, I've been told I'm sorry, not quarterback, head coach. I'm the head coach. And then all of a sudden, just as it happens that Harbaugh is fired, that Stephen Ross, who went after Jim Harbaugh, because Stephen Ross is a Michigan guy and Jim Harbaugh is obviously a Michigan guy, who went after him. Just so happens he fires Mike McDaniel the day after or hours after that John Harbaugh gets fired. They can call that coincidence. They can say what they want. And again, by the time you guys hear this, maybe John Harbaugh's already taken a job somewhere else. It's not a guarantee, but you can bet your bottom dollar that Stephen Ross will do everything in his power to try to get John Harbaugh. And if John Harbaugh gets the opportunity to go there and bring in his guys, it's not a bad job. The one thing I can tell you about Stephen Ross, he is a big game hunter. All right. He wants the flashy name. He wants, he struck out earlier in his career on some guys, whether it was, Tony Sperano being an interim, or whether it was, Adam Gase, that was a disaster. He's got money. He's a big game hunter. And the organization, if he's able to get John Harbaugh, the organizations that Harbaugh is only familiar with basically for the last 30 years are the Eagles and the Ravens. So if John Harbaugh and the Miami Dolphins become one and they work it out and he's their next head coach, it'll be interesting to see if any personnel or coaching staff come from Eagles, Ravens, or you can even go to the Chiefs because of the Andy Reid connection. I mean, like I said, Harbaugh has coached with so many good coaches that I don't think it'll be difficult for him to come up with a staff as long as guys that he's looking for are available. You can look at the Chargers where his brother is. There's a connection there. So it would not be surprising to me if you saw that kind of flavor hit South Florida. And just remember Stephen Ross. He wants to win. He has been criticized as a meddlesome owner at times. I think it's fair. However, he does want to win, and he does have money to spend. And so it'll be very interesting now to see, because now you've got the Dolphins and some big market teams like the Giants. The Giants need a head coach. Raiders need a head coach. I can't see Harbaugh going to the Titans or the Falcons. I think he's too big of a name. So and we'll see what happens in the playoffs if any team decides to fire. I don't think that anyone's in jeopardy here. If Mike Tomlin loses to the Texans, which is very possible, does he get fired? I don't think so. I don't think that anything anywhere else. Obviously, Ben Johnson, and I don't think Matt LaFleur is going to go anywhere if he loses to the Bears. I don't think Sean McVay. I don't think Dave Canales. I think Dave Canales has actually done a good job with the Panthers, even though they had a losing record. So, it looks like this is, to me, I would handicap this. I would handicap the Giants and the Dolphins as the two spots that'll probably duke it out for Harbaugh. And, if the Giants don't get him, Kevin Stefanski, again, we talked about him. Kevin Stefanski could be a guy that would appeal to them because the Giants are in a tricky situation. I've mentioned this before. Their owner is sick, unfortunately, John Mara, and it's a terrible situation. I hope he winds up beating cancer. I believe it's cancer that he has. I don't know how that's impacting their decision-making. You would think that that's part of the reason they decided to keep Joe Shane, the GM, and let him lead the search. Even though Shane has not exactly had a sterling record since becoming the Giants GM. But that's the case. Kevin Stefanski would probably be a good fit for what they have on offense and what he's been able to do in Cleveland. But, of course, they'll cast a wide net as well. And now what becomes of Mike McDaniel? I think he can coach. I think he's good. His team obviously didn't quit on him. He made that quarterback change to Quinn Ewers, so they fell a little bit at the end of the year. But I think Mike McDaniel is a really brilliant offensive mind, and I think he can coach. He's just got to be in the right environment. So we'll see what the future is for him. And other than that, we'll see what the Raiders. The Raiders just fascinate me because they're probably going to take Mendoza number 1 overall, but they have so much work to do. Tom Brady is going to be highly involved with that. So, the first thing you want to do is think about potential Patriots guys that Brady was with or Buccaneers guys that Brady's with. I ain't going to be Josh McDaniels. McDaniels had a great year with Drake May and the Patriots, but I can't see McDaniels going right back to Las Vegas after his stint there. So that'll be an interesting one too. All right, let's get into the wild card games. And again, you got the Seahawks are off and the Broncos are off. So let's get into the wild card games. All right, we'll start with the Saturday games, the NFC wild card games, 4:30, 8 o'clock. 4:30, you have the Rams. They are in Charlotte against the Panthers. We all know the Panthers were lucky to win the NFC South. They lost, but because the Falcons won and beat the Saints, that made the Panthers NFC South champs instead of the Bucks. So they're at home. They will host a 12-5 Rams team that went out to Carolina a couple weeks ago and they lost. The Rams have not played great over the last 4 weeks of the season, 2-2. They did go and they lost in week 13 to the Panthers, 31-28. And in fact, they finished the season 3-3, which is why they didn't get the number 1 seed, of course, or lost handle of it to Seattle. But let me just tell you this now. One, it's pretty obvious, and I still think this. The Rams, to me, they are getting some healthy guys back, including really their best player, not in the defensive front, but in the secondary, Quentin Lake. He is as important to them as Jalen Ramsey used to be when they won the Super Bowl, as far as moving around and being able to play multiple roles. And he has been out. He dislocated his elbow, had to have surgery. He'll be back for the playoffs. He is a stabilizer for what the Rams will do on the back end, which of course is going to help the front end. And the Rams have already gotten Higbee back, the great tight end, good tight end, who they were out for a while. The only thing about the Rams that concerns me, and it's also been a reason they haven't been as strong over the last few weeks, is that they've been missing their right tackle, Havenstein. He's been on IR, and they've been missing Kevin Dotson, who's a good lineman for them. very good lineman. He's out. So they're going to be on two backup offensive linemen against a Panthers team that has a lot of really good defensive players who are not recognizable names. I mean, it starts with their defensive tackle, Derek Brown, a first-round pick. I mean, he'd probably be more recognizable if he was on a bigger market team. This is, of course, why the game's 4:30 on Saturday, the market size here. But he's a really good player. J.C. Horn, good corner. They have good players on defense, very good players on defense. And then that is going to be that's the reason why they even made it to 8-9. And if they pull off the upset, it'll be the reason why they do that. They have good players on defense. They have a good, sound defensive scheme. And they can be frustrating. They can make it difficult on opponents. But with the Rams healthier, having Devontae Adams, of course, having the run game that they've got, the tight end Higbee coming back. It sounds like Ferguson's going to be able to play. They play a ton of tight ends. The Rams will play 3 tight ends. They'll play Ferguson, they'll play Higbee, and they'll play Colby Parkinson. And they'll run out of those formations and use those big bodies. They'll pass out of it using, play action. And Matthew Stafford probably will finish second to Drake May in league MVP, but he was the best quarterback this year. He really was. Drake May had a great year, taking nothing away from him. Put the ball down the field as good as anybody in the NFL. I just felt watching the Patriots that they were so reliant on those big explosive plays, which was great. But the Rams can beat you any single different way because of Stafford, right? I mean, then they have a run game, sure, but they'll hit you in the middle with the tight ends. They'll hit you in the middle with Nacua. They'll hit you deep with Nacua. They'll hit you deep with Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams will get you in the red zone, where he had a ridiculous number of low red zone touchdown catches this year. The Rams, because of Stafford, have been an unbelievable offense when they're hitting on all cylinders. And if their defense just gets stable because they get a guy like Quentin Lake back, then that just makes them all the more stronger. I hate when teams have to go on the road and win 3 times to get to a Super Bowl. But veteran teams have done that. And I believe I believe the Rams can do that. I do believe they are, when healthy, the best team in the NFC. It doesn't mean they'll make it there, but they are the best team in the NFC. I can see the Panthers putting up a little bit of a fight here, but man, they are 10.5-point underdogs at home. And I honestly think it's fair. I think the Rams are probably 14 to 16 points better than the Panthers, because the Panthers, they just don't have a consistent enough passing game. There were some weeks in the middle of the year where they were getting a tremendous run game at Rico Dowdle. They have a good offensive line. They got some good guys up front that, again, you probably haven't heard of, but you got a guard in Damian Lewis who's really good. Ike Ekwonu, their left tackle, first rounder, has been good enough. The right guard Corbett, the right tackle Taylor Moton. They are good up front in the trenches. And Ted McMillan is an excellent wide receiver. Jalen Coker is a really nice story at a Holy Cross. Guy was an undrafted free agent. He's a starter for them. He's kind of a slot guy who can go vertical. They can move him around. So they've got weapons, but I watch Bryce Young play, and once every 4 or 5 weeks, looks like he's just in a rhythm and he finds it and it's there. And then the other 3 to 4 weeks, he doesn't look like an NFL starting quarterback. He's an NFL quarterback. I don't know that he's an NFL starting quarterback for a team that aspires to be more than just an 8-9 division winner and a first-round playoff team. So the Rams will have a major advantage of this game, and I would say that getting Quentin Lake back is huge for them. Again, not a guy who's a recognizable household name, but he's an important player. He's a very good player. He does a lot of things on the back end for Chris Shula, who has done a great job as defensive coordinator. This guy can blitz, he can cover, he can run, he can tackle, and he lets Shula find the right matchups because he knows he can put Quentin Lake anywhere on the field and get a good productive play out of him. And of course, Verse, very good up front. I mean, the Rams just have really good. That's why I think they're the most complete team. They've got really good players. I just mentioned all the ones they have on offense, but look what they got on defense. They have really Verse we know is good. All right. Fisk, very good. Not a great run stopper, very good. They had a linebacker, Nate Landman, just come out of nowhere and play really well. Byron Young, of course, has been a very good pass rusher. Kobe Turner up the middle. I mean, these guys are none of them other than Verse are first round picks. Their secondary isn't great, but when you have what you got with Quentin Lake and you have the defensive front that they have been good defensively for most of the year. And I think that they're going to be too much for Bryce Young. So the Rams, to me, they will advance, and then they will wait to see what their fate, which could be determined by what happens in the Packers-Bears game. Now, Packers-Bears, I love this game for so many reasons. Let's just start off with the coaching, all right? You have 4 of the best coaches in the NFL on the field. For the Packers, you have Matt LaFleur, who's a very good coach. I quibble sometimes with his conservative play calling, but they're in the playoffs every year. They're a good team every year. And even though I quibble with his conservative play calling, I think he has a good feel when to run, when to pass, how to use his very athletic, big arm quarterback. Like, doesn't have a lot of weapons. They certainly picked up the pace when Christian Watson came back. That was great for them. And they certainly got a boost when Jaden Reed came back. And with Josh Jacobs being healthy, this is good. They're a little beat up on the offensive line. They lost their center, Jenkins, who's very good. Looks like Zach Tom, their right tackle, will be good to go. That's a big difference for them. So they're pretty healthy. But you got Matt LaFleur, and you got a defensive coordinator in Jeff Hafley, who's done a tremendous job his 2 years there. He's already a head coaching candidate. I believe he's already got some interviews lined up, if not done already. So you have 2 at the best at their position. And then you flip and look at the Bears, and Ben Johnson will not win Coach of the Year. I think he'll get votes. I don't think he'll win it. I think Mike McDonald will get it. If Mike McDonald doesn't get it, Mike Vrabel probably will. I suspect when it all said and done, if you see how the standings are for the voting, it'll be something like McDonald 1, Vrabel 2, Ben Johnson 3. I mean, you can make an argument for Kyle Shanahan, for Liam Cohen. There have been some tremendous coaching jobs this year, but certainly Ben Johnson has been one of them. He is an excellent play caller, an excellent schemer. He has the Bears run game clicking on all cylinders with a rookie guy that nobody ever heard of from Rutgers named Kyle Monangai, along with DeAndre Swift. They made those moves to upgrade the offensive line. Those were really, really good moves the Bears made in the offseason that didn't get a lot of acclaim. They traded for Tooney. They got Jonah Jackson from the Rams. They really built the interior of that offensive line, right, so that they could run the ball. I'm sorry, I meant Alaric Jackson, not Jonah Jackson. Alaric Jackson, but he plays left tackle. No. Let me reverse that. I'm getting my Rams and Bears line confused. All right, Jonah Jackson from the Rams plays right guard. Tooney, they traded in the trade for the Chiefs. He can still play. He's a good left guard. All right, and Drew Dahlman was a Pro Bowler at center. So they are excellent at running the ball. All the Eagles fans know that now. They run the ball up the middle, but they don't have a great passing game. We'll get into that in a second. But Ben Johnson has done a phenomenal job with this offense and their defense led by Dennis Allen. We know Dennis Allen's a really good defensive coordinator. He was in New Orleans. He's been good wherever he's been. Maybe not the best head coach, but some guys are just better as coordinators. Dennis Allen's a very good coordinator, and the Bears all year long have thrived on takeaways. They are the number 1 takeaway team in the NFL, or at least they were in the regular season. That's their claim to fame. They can intercept the ball. They can get fumbles. They were plus 22 in turnover differential. So they also don't turn the ball over quite a bit. They had 33 takeaways, 11 giveaways, plus 22, 23 interceptions, led the NFL. I think that's really important and vital. But what you can't rely on that too much. Now the Eagles did it last year unbelievably. They had something like a plus 12 turnover ratio in the play. I mean, it was nobody else was even close to them in the postseason. They had 13 takeaways in 4 games. That's unbelievable. 6 interceptions, 7 fumbles the Eagles had. That they could survive, but they also had a very good offense that if the defense, had a little bit of a letdown, they could hit you with Saquon Barkley and he would take off. The Rams to me are so takeaway dependent. They don't have pass rushers like the Eagles did last year. They're very, very takeaway dependent because they don't have pass rushers. They don't have that killer up front, like a Micah Parsons. So when they play the Packers, even though it's in Chicago, 8 o'clock game, weather could be a factor. I know it's supposed to snow earlier in the day. It may be done by the time they play. It would probably be windy. Always is. I got to favor the Packers here. I know they're the lower seed. I don't hold it against the Packers how they finished the season. We know Love was injured, missed the last 2 games. I'm not going to make a big deal of it that they only had 9 wins, or that even in that game they lost to the Bears where they had a chance to win the division, they let the Bears come back and win the game. Now, the Bears have been that way all year long. They are a fourth quarter team. And if this game is within 3 to 6, 7, something like that in the fourth quarter, which it could be, you can't count the Bears out because they have had some magic so far in the postseason. But I can't say that I trust, and this is not just a Caleb Williams thing. It's sort of that first-year playoff quarterback thing. Had a lot of experience, a lot of success in the regular season, really came into his own. But this is his first playoff game at home. There's a ton of pressure on him. They're mainly a run-reliant team. The Packers have a very good defense. I don't think that they're going to get run all over. I think that there's going to be a good amount of second and third and longs that the Bears are going to have to figure out a way to convert with their passing game. And that's where I think Caleb Williams' inexperience in the playoff and his erraticness at times is going to hurt them. I don't think it'll hurt the Packers. The Packers will probably have some struggles at times moving the ball against the Bears defense. But again, the Bears don't have pass rushers. So as long as they play smart, fundamental football, the Packers do, and with Christian Watson and with Jaden Reed and Jacobs, I don't think that Love is going to have to feel like he has to be a hero. He's got his support system that he's used to. He didn't have them all together all year long. He's got that now. I think as long as they don't turn the football over, the Packers are going to be all right. And I think they're going to win the game. I don't trust the Bears offense. And the Packers winning means that they would wind up going to Seattle. And then the winner of that 4:30 game between the Rams and Panthers will come to Philadelphia as long as Philadelphia does its job and beats the 49ers. That's how I see it. Again, the Packers would go to Seattle because they are the lowest seed. So the number 1 seed is going to host the lowest seed. And then that would in turn take the 2 seed out with Chicago out and make the Eagles then the home team for the second round. So after all that, moaning and groaning about whether or not Nick Sirianni should have rested his starters or not, there's a pretty good chance, or the way I see it playing out, that they're going to have that second home game. Anyway, the only issue is it's probably going to be the Rams, and the Rams at full strength. And then we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So those are how I see the Saturday games. I forgot to mention, if I didn't mention it, the Packers are 1.5 point favorites in Chicago, and the total is 44.5. A lot of low over-unders, man. 44.5 for the Packers Bears, 45.5 for Rams Panthers. It's a little interesting to me. But again, the Panthers can't score. I just don't think offensively they're ready. The Eagles 49ers is going to be 44.5. We'll get into that. Once you get to even some of the AFC games are really low. So like I said, it's been a defensive year, and it'll probably be a very defensive postseason.
Hey, it's that time of the year that everyone's trying to clean up their habits, and that includes me. Honestly, having one less drink has never felt easier. Instead of pouring a cocktail, I just reach for Sol's out-of-office drinks. It's the same relaxing vibe, but zero alcohol, zero hangover, I still wake up feeling like a functional adult. I can get to the gym. I can do whatever I have to do throughout the day without feeling worn down or dragged down that alcohol can make you feel. Soul, what I appreciate about them is it makes feeling good simple with their delicious hemp-derived CBD and THC products with precise dosing, clean ingredients, and formulations designed for predictable feel-good effects. Soul is the alcohol alternative that puts you in control of your mood. You got to try their best-selling out-of-office gummies that deliver a customizable calming buzz. All right, so give yourself the gift of a healthier unwind right now. Soul is offering our audience 30% off their entire order. Go to getsoul.com and use the code BIRDS, BIRDS. That's getsoul.com, promo code BIRDS for 30% off. Hey, it's Geoff Mosher. Quick question for you. If you could stop somebody from breaking into your home before they got inside, why wouldn't you? That's why I've got Simply Safe, the best home alarm system, so much better than those old school systems that go after somebody that's already in your place when it's way too late. Simply Safe is different, proactive, and you get a double layer of defense that stops crimes before they start. They've got AI-powered cameras that spot potential threats outside, and then live agents step in. They talk to the person through the camera to let them know they're on video, and police will be dispatched if they don't leave. You can get Simply Safe with no long-term contracts or hidden fees, and you can cancel at any time. They were named the best home security systems by U.S. News and World Report for 5 years running. This is why I feel so safe when my wife and children are at home, because I have Simply Safe. It is simply the best option out there for home alarm systems. And this month only, take 50% off any new system. This is one of the best prices you'll see ever for Simply Safe. Don't miss it. Hit simplysafe.com/birds. Again, that's simplysafe.com/birds and lock in your discount. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Hey, Philly fans, game day is stressful enough. Parking, traffic, long lines. We've all been there. But when it comes to your cannabis, Camden Apothecary makes it easy. This is the dispensary for sports fans, just minutes outside of Philly with plenty of free parking. You'll be in and out fast, no hassle, no waiting. And they don't just care about convenience. Camden Apothecary is all about the guest experience. Their staff makes sure you feel taken care of every time you walk in. Plus, they carry only the best quality cannabis at the fairest prices. So whether you're stocking up for the tailgate, the watch party, or celebrating a big win, you know you're getting the good stuff without overpaying. They even show love to the community with specials for fans, students, service members, and healthcare pros. Camden Apothecary, top quality cannabis, great prices, and an experience made for Philly fans 21 and up.
All right, the Sunday matchups. Obviously, I'm not going to cover the Eagles game too much because we've done that on the Inside the Birds pregame show with myself, Adam Kaplan, Greg Cosell. I'll just reiterate what I've said and what I wrote at Philly Voice. I really respect what the Niners have done all year long, and they have compensated for their injuries, and they've compensated for their lack of firepower, and they've really put together an impressive year. But you know, the team that they're facing, this Eagles defense, is not like the Cardinals. It's not like, you know, the Bears. This is more like Seattle for them. And we saw how they played against Seattle. I just think, especially with the elements and the wind that's expected, I think the Niners are going to have a real tough time moving the ball. And even though I think the Eagles are also going to be the Eagles and struggle to move the ball, I think that they've got enough to really be able to win this game by about 10 points. The Eagles are 6-point favorites. I think it's going to be like a 23-13 type of Eagles win. One that, you know, hey, for the Eagles, they're survive in advance, but for everybody else, they'll be upset that they didn't take advantage of more opportunities or didn't put more points on the board against the Niners defense that is really beat up over the middle. The Sunday early game, of course, early game, you're going to have two small markets. You got the Bills at the Jaguars. You know, don't let this game fool you. These are two, A, really good teams, and B, you know, the Jaguars were a team, the Bills too. I mean, they kind of, you didn't know what they were halfway through the year. Jaguars really came on from the trade deadline on when they picked up
Myers from the Raiders, and their defense. Their coordinator, Anthony Campanelli, has done an unbelievable job. The offense came around the second half. Defense was there pretty much all year. So this is a really good game, and it's not a typical 3-6 matchup in that I think it's pretty evenly uh, contested. I think that both of these teams are very good. I think the one thing about this game is that Josh Allen has so much pressure on him. Even though the Jags are 1.5-point favorites and they're home, when you have an NFL playoff that doesn't have Patrick Mahomes, doesn't have Lamar Jackson to go through, doesn't have that guy that you're used to seeing where you say, hey, Josh Allen's great, but he's going to have to beat one of those two guys, okay? Just doesn't have Joe Burrow. It's basically Josh Allen and a bunch of guys who are young, or Aaron Rodgers who's hanging on, playing well but hanging on. And so there's so much pressure this year where Josh doesn't have to run into Lamar, doesn't have to run into Mahomes, doesn't have to run into both of them to win it. And he's playing against a Jacksonville team that's an upstart team that nobody thought would be the number 3 seed going into the year. I think that makes the game very intriguing. The bottom line is that neither of these teams have real prolific weapons. Buffalo, Josh Allen is the prolific weapon. James Cook is a great running back, no doubt. But when they have to throw the ball, you're either throwing a Dalton Kincaid, you're throwing a, Khalil. I'm sorry, the kid from Boise State whose name is escaping me right now. But Buffalo, Khalil Shakir, Brandon Cooks. Like, this is not a great passing offense. And the passing schemes in general are vanilla too. Then you got Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, who played like one of the worst. He had one of the worst passer ratings in the league for the first 8 games of the year. All right, came on at the end. They run the ball right. They've Brian Thomas Jr. coming on. He's really not their guy that you thought he would be after that great rookie year. Parker Washington's come on for them. Myers has caught some balls for them. I mean, they really spread it around with what they do offensively. It feels like they do just enough offensively to get by week after week, but hey, that's worked for them, and they've done well. Liam Cohen has done a good job, but it's not a 6-3 matchup. I really think that it'll be a low-scoring game. I think the Bills will have a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter, and that's how I see this game. I see this being a fourth quarter game, and the team that makes the most plays in the fourth quarter will be the team that wins. It could be Jacksonville, could be Buffalo. I don't have a great feel either way. I'm just saying for a 6-3 matchup, I don't look at I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo won the game at all. In fact, again, I think, if this game were played a couple weeks ago, Buffalo might be favored, even if it was still in Jacksonville. Jacksonville being 1.5-point favorites at home tells you all you need to know about how the sportsbooks feel. If this game were in Buffalo or a neutral field, the Bills would be favored. So don't look at this like a 6-3 game. Look at this like two really good teams, flawed but good, that will both play good defense. Jacksonville has very good defensive players. And one thing I want to point out is that Anthony Campanelli, their defensive coordinator, has basically done a great job with a defense that is the same as last year, which stunk. I mean, they didn't bring in a ton of defensive players. They drafted Travis Hunter. He's been on IR, so he hasn't really made that much of a difference for their cornerback group. Anthony Campanelli, you could tell he's a good coach because he's taking guys like Devin Lloyd, linebacker, who is struggling under the pass regime, playing really well. He gets what he gets out of Trayvon Walker. I mean, the Jags are, again, not a team that has 1,000 household names. They're going to wow you, but they're a good team, and they play really good defense, good linebackers. They've gotten good safety play, made some smart moves. Same with the Bills. The Bills, they always have people hurt. And, of course, Terrell Bernard, their linebacker, is going to be out. Their cornerback, Maxwell Harrison, is going to be out. They're always dealing with injuries, but they're a schemed defense. Sean McDermott really understands how to break down protection schemes with either blitzes or disguised blitzes. I mean, he's Jim Johnson's reincarnate. He schemes up a defense that is very difficult to go over the top against, very difficult to score a lot of points against, even if they don't have a bunch of guys out there who are all pros. That's just how good Sean McDermott is. So I expect it'll be a low scoring game. Kind of one of those things where whoever, if one of these teams turns the ball over 2 or 3 times, they're dead. No question about it. The late game is about as exciting a game as it gets. And again, throw the seedings out the window. The Patriots as the number 2 seed versus the Chargers as a 7th seed. Folks, I know that the Chargers won 11 games. The Patriots won 14. So you think that's kind of a wide differential. The Chargers play in the AFC West. They got to battle it out with the Broncos, who are the 1 seed, the Chiefs, who for at least the first 5, 6, 7 games of the year were a competitive team until they lost Mahomes. The Chargers' strength of win this year is 47%, 0.469. The Patriots' strength of win this year is 0.391. So what I'm saying is, if you made the Patriots play the Chargers schedule and the Chargers play the Patriots schedule, it might be that the Chargers are 14-3 and the Patriots are 11-6. I'm not trying to take away anything from what New England has done, but I have concerns about them in this game. They're very young. All right. Drake May, 2nd year, first playoff game, had an unbelievable year, might be the MVP. Okay. Young player. This will be his first taste of the playoffs. Travion Henderson, their running back, first taste of the playoffs. Christian Gonzalez, their cornerback, very talented player. They've got players who, obviously, they have Milton Williams, right? They've got some players who've been there or have played in playoff games. But for the most part, the Patriots are a young team. You know, again, Steph Diggs, he's played in big games. But if you look at them for the most part, not too many guys who have played in really, really big games like this. You compare that to the Chargers. Now, we know the Chargers have that issue where they've lost both their offensive tackles. They're not a great offensive team. They should have their running backs, Hampton and Vidal. So that is a good thing for them. Huge, actually. They're not going to be able to overcome their offensive tackle issues. They're just always going to be there. And Herbert will have to be Superman and put the cape on. But look at the experience factor. All right. Herbert has played in playoff games. All right. The defense, they got guys like Mack, right? Khalil Mack played in playoff games, played in big games. Okay. How about their head coach, Harbaugh? He's won a college football championship and he's already been to a Super Bowl. All right. His defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, has been with him along the way. Baltimore and then of course in Michigan. So this is a team that is not going to go and be scared of New England. They're not going to be afraid of the limelight. The moment is not going to be too big for them. They have just too many guys who've played. Keenan Allen, I forgot to mention him. Too many guys who played a lot of NFL games. All right. They're not going to be scared. This is a battle-tested team. They have gone through the ringer this year. They have lost so many guys to injuries at times, and Justin Herbert was playing with a broken left hand, and they finished the way they finished. Tells you a lot about what they're made of. The Chargers are a very good team. I thought, you guys know this on this show, I thought those 2 tackles going down for the year, Slater and Alt, were going to ruin them. I thought that they would be in trouble. They did not. They won their last 3 games. They won 4 of their last 6. You know, yes, they had a 2-point loss to the Chiefs, and yes, they got blown out by the Bucs. So I'm not telling you they're perfect. What I'm saying is, I don't think that I'm sorry, that's what I just said was not the case about their schedule. They lost their last 2 games. They lost to the Broncos, but they didn't start their starters. They lost to the Texans in week 17, 20-16. They were down 14-0 and then almost came back in that game. Any call could have gone their way. Totally different story. Before that, they have won 4 straight and 7 of 8 with their only loss to the Jaguars. Okay. This is a good team, a very good team. They will not be scared in New England. Jim Harbaugh doesn't coach scared. He doesn't coach scared. He doesn't spread any of that to his team. They will be absolutely prepared and ready for the Patriots. And one thing about the Patriots, They have been a big play team all year long, kind of a shot play team, whether it's a Henderson big run or a Stephon Diggs big catch. All right. That's what's made Drake May special. He has put the ball down the field really well. The Chargers do not allow a whole lot of downfield action. They have a very good scheme, a very good secondary, a very good coordinator who likes to play too high. In some ways, I wonder about the matchup for the Patriots here. Can they play their game? Can they play the way they want to? Can they go big game hunting against a Chargers defense that can come after you? These are fair questions. I really can't wait to watch the game. Think it's going to be exciting. I think it'll be close. What did I say? That the Patriots are 3.5-point favorites. I would not be surprised if the Chargers won the game. I'm not saying I think they will definitely win the game. I'm not saying they should be favorites. Trust me, not saying any of that. What I'm saying is I expect them to show up to Gillette Stadium there and give a really, really good game. You don't get oftentimes really good games out of the 2-7 seed. I think in this situation, you might. You think you could be, and you might get an upset. So we'll see. See how it goes. Got to give Josh McDaniels a lot of credit. He has done an unbelievable job with that New England Patriots defense offense. So he has proved that he can orchestrate a very good offense that isn't captained by Tom Brady. So good job by them. And this Patriots team is very good. I'm not expecting them to lie down either. And even though they are young, I'm not expecting them to have one of those games where they have 4, 5, 6 turnovers. I think Mike Vrabel will have them ready to play a good game. But I like the way the Chargers have played, and I give them a puncher's chance in that game. As for the Monday night game, I think the word puncher's chance is probably, or term is probably appropriate, because this game is really going to be a fight between two teams that have really good defenses and just okay offenses. A couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I would have not said that about the Steelers, but I really have watched, their games lately. Once TJ Watt came back, their front seven got stabilized. I think the rookie Derek Harmon has played really well. He's impressive. Cam Hayward's always up to make big plays in the playoffs. Talk about battle tested. All right. They have a battle tested defense. Jalen Ramsey back there. He may not be the Jalen Ramsey of 5 years ago with the Rams or Miami, but he's still a good player. So this Steelers team is ready for the moment. They've played very good defense. Benton, another good lineman. I mean, their front four is very good, and it has really come alive over the last few weeks. They did an excellent job against Baltimore, and what they are offensively is not pretty. They survive without DK Metcalf. He'll come back. They really survive on having a good offensive line, a good running game, and a good quick game. Aaron Rodgers does not want to hang around in the pocket anymore and take hits. He wants to get rid of the ball quickly. He's been able to do that for the last few weeks for the most part. Every once in a while, he'll throw a beautiful ball like the seam ball that he threw to Freiermuth against the Ravens. That was a huge play. Obviously, the fourth quarter touchdown he threw to Austin, the guy was wide open, but nonetheless, Rodgers showed you the arm. He can get it there. He can make plays. This team's just not ready to die. And that, shame on me for kind of burying them 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, because Mike Tomlin teams don't die. He's a very good coach. The issue that they face is that this Houston Texans defense is the best, in my estimation, is the best defense in the NFL. It is, to me, they may not have the splash that the Broncos defense has. The Broncos have Bonito, they have Cooper, they have Surtain, Riley Moss, Zach Allen. It seems like the Broncos just have studs at every single position. But you know what? The Texans aren't that far behind. And I think the Texans don't get the same kind of credit all the time, because basically D'Amico lets his guys go out there and win. And they do. Vance Joseph for the Broncos, he'll blitz. He'll throw all the kitchen sinks at you because he can. He can throw 7 guys at you. He can throw 6 guys at you because he got guys that can cover. The Texans do too, but they don't feel the need to do that. That's just not how D'Amico Ryans plays ball. All right. He relies on guys like Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. They're 2 pass rushers to get the job done, and they do. They're fantastic. They're good in the middle with Togiai and Rankins. excellent at linebacker. Aziz Al-Shahir, very good player. Stingley, we know, is a great cornerback. All right, they get good safety play. Lassiter has done well. Petrie, the nickel. I mean, they just are so technically sound, so fundamentally sound. They don't give you an inch. They will not yield an inch to the Steelers. The Steelers want to wear you down with a running game. They want to wear you down with a quick game, and then maybe try to pop one on you when you're least expect it. All right, Houston, they'll expect it, and they're going to put the Steelers in bad down and distances. And likewise, the Steelers are going to do the same to the Texans. The Texans are 3-point favorites on the road in Pittsburgh, which is a tough, tough place to win in the postseason. This game will be a defensive slugfest. Not surprisingly, the over-under is 38.5. And honestly, folks, may not get there. Might not get to 38.5. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a throwback game, old school game. If you're being objective and honest with yourself, when you look at the AFC playoff picture, Josh Allen's the best quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is the most accomplished quarterback. He's probably the guy you might say you trust the most in the AFC after Josh Allen, because we just haven't seen it yet from Drake May or Trevor Lawrence. But that's the beauty of this weekend. This is the start of a great postseason, because every NFL postseason is great. But this is the start of when young guys like Drake May or a guy like Trevor Lawrence or a guy who hasn't won yet like Justin Herbert, right? These are the times that they get to make their moments. Maybe it's CJ Stroud. All right. In the NFC, you've got a little bit more of guys who've made their moments and they're still in it. Guys like Stafford, guys like Hurts, right? I mean, those guys have made their moments. Darnold, he hasn't made his moments yet in the playoffs. This is still a prove it time, but we've seen him steadily progress over the last few years. Same thing, Jordan Love. We know he's a very capable quarterback, a good quarterback who can win a playoff game. We all remember when he went to Dallas and just slayed the Cowboys a few years ago in the playoffs. But the AFC, there's a beauty in this. There is a beauty in watching Stroud, Herbert, May all try to take that spotlight away from Josh Allen. And there's a beauty in Josh Allen, maybe finally this being his year where there's not that big guy, Hall of Famer in his way to take the Bills to the Super Bowl. It all starts this weekend. It's going to be a fantastic weekend. I look forward to it. And I'm also kind of happy that last week, for the third straight week, I went 2-1 in my picks, which, by the way, is tough in week 18 because you never know what teams are going to pull starters, what teams are going to play guys, not play guys. It's wacky, but I won. I took the Vikings with a big number over the Packers. Vikings 9.5. They won by a lot. They covered. I won on the Bills covering their 7.5 versus the Jets. I knew the Bills were going to play everybody. They destroyed the Jets, who were epically bad. I did lose on the Texans. I took the Texans to beat the Colts with a 10-point favorite, 10-point spread. They lost by 8. And, of course, the Texans pulled their starters at halftime when they saw the Jags were rolling. So maybe I would have went 3-0. But like I said, week 18 is tough that way. It brings my it's so sad. I'm 6-3 over the last 3 weeks, and I'm only 23-31 on the year. As for my 3 picks in Wild Card Weekend, for the first time this year, I usually typically avoid the Eagles, but for the first time this year, I take the Eagles, 6-point favorites at home against the Niners. I explained why. I thought that if in a low-scoring game, they'll win by about 10 points, maybe a little more. I am going to take the Steelers because they're getting 3 points at home, right? So I'm not sure the Steelers are going to win. This, to me, feels like a 15-14 type of game or something, 13-12, something like that. Probably ends on a game-winning field goal. So, but whenever you see a playoff game and the Steelers, who haven't won a playoff game in a while, but getting points in Pittsburgh, that begs me to take it. I don't know if they'll win, but I think that they'll cover. And I'm going to go against my better judgment because it's a big number, but I'm going to take the Rams 10.5 over the Panthers. Like I mentioned, the Rams are healthy, got almost everybody back. Offense should be clicking. I don't think the Panthers will be able to hang with it. We talked about, youth and inexperience, and the Panthers have a ton of that. right now. A bunch of guys who are going to be playing playoff football for the first time. And the Rams, they're the opposite. They've got guys who are pretty battle tested, including their quarterback who, might win MVP, probably should win MVP. I'm guessing Drake May is going to get it. I can understand why. Obviously the Rams faltered down the stretch a little bit, but nobody's played better quarterback this year than Matthew Stafford. I don't believe that anybody has played better than him at that position. So anyway, I'll take the Rams minus 10.5 in Carolina. That's it. That's all I got. It's been fun. And like I tell you every week, and especially when we get into the playoffs, enjoy your football watching.